What would philosophers say to our times? Or where philosophers begin this dawn on the last day of August in France? Leibniz, very early on, hits upon the idea of expression. You see, Leibniz has a peculiar problem, that the logic of his philosophy actually undoes the possibility of causation. We don't need to go into why. But that means he has to rethink what it is to be a cause. And he hits upon a wonderful, very intellectual perhaps, idea. That a cause is that idea that best expresses a phenomena. So we say a boat causes waves. Although strictly speaking, on the molecular level, it's not so simple. Just because it is the boat, though, that carves its way through the water. Or we say that the wind makes the trees move, and not the other way round. Because if we say it is the wind, we're binding the movement of trees, not just into a local phenomena that does indeed cause the wind or is part of the wind's process, but rather a story about the weather, about pressure. An entire long story then. To be a cause is to be able to wrap up a phenomena within a greater tale, to elucidate it, to allow ideas to jingle-jangle one inside the other. So Einstein better expresses gravity than Newton. Newton remains true, but inside relativity. Great theories are great expressions, able to make everything move one inside the other. And lots of the deep scientists' debates come down to how you're going to express it. For example, quickly, what is inherited, traits or genes? What drives evolution, traits or genes? You might argue it must be genes because they survive. Unfortunately, they have no real ability to straightforwardly impact on their environment. It is much easier to deny the selfish gene and to say, actually, it's traits that have inherited, and therefore the genes must follow the traits. It's a matter of expression. That one could be debated either way, but the point is, this is a debate about expression. Okay, all right, why does it matter to you? Oh, when you're old like I am, you will remember the early 1990s when the Berlin Wall fell. And serious academics, I would never have agreed with them, but serious academics argued here we were at the end of history. This was the political formation that was going to take us into modernity. Nation states, free market capitalism, some sort of health provision. This was going to be the answer to world problems. And, well, for a very long time, the West believed its own propaganda. It thought that that was true. It became kind of the dominant complacency. And, we all know it can't work. We all know for a very long time now, at least 10 years, that that basic model no longer expresses the world we feel we live in. And our great problem then is what does. Conspiracies and pipelines, as they get called, don't come from nowhere. They're not purely the product of the internet, although sometimes I might seem like I argue that. They're actually a result of a huge failure of the models by which we understood the political and social realities in which we exist. We need to find then another way to express our truth. And so, as nothing is truly causal in this world, expression becomes the way to do it. What expresses our problems? And here, I'm not going to hector you about whether you should believe this or that conspiracy. I'm merely going to say that for me, that central idea of Leibniz imposes upon us, now I'm going to use a posh word here, a schemata, a way of selecting, thinking about different conspiracies, different ways to explain the problem of the society in which we live. Most importantly, for Leibniz, any good expression isn't singular. There's not one thing happened. It's not the wind causes the trees. So much the wind and tree are bound within within the greater cycle of weather. Good causes, then, appeal beyond a simple explanation, beyond a simple set of reasons, and always, always must. If your conspiracy, then, involves a relatively straightforward move, it's going to be wrong. Next, expressions are good in that they appeal to the real world. They hook together our ideas and a world beyond us. They make us understand that world and our world and the politics that drives it afresh and anew. They put us then in a different place. They allow us to see things from another set of eyes. Any conspiracy that needs to make things up, that fundamentally keeps the reality just as it is, it merely makes it darker or explains it differently, but fundamentally as necessarily the same, be it, is always open to suspects. More than that, it is always open to a dangerous inversion, which isn't in Leibniz, but is not totally not in him either. That is, you might see the truth, but flip it, because expressions flip. For example, the argument that there was paedophilia rings within America and within Britain is, in the face of Jimmy Savile and Trump, it is reasonable. The problem was the expression got the wrong people. Why? Because although the truth was reasonable, it tied it to a whole set of metaphysical points and imagined histories that made them accuse the wrong people and ironically put the paedophiles and the racists in charge. Sorry, I wasn't going to get political on my conspiracies, but I have done. Never mind. But the point is about expression is that you're not going to be able to avoid conspiracy because you're not going to know the truth, because there might not be a simple truth out there. That's not what you're trying to find. What you're trying to find is a simple way to gather the maximum set of ideas, to make them resonate one inside the other, to give you political choices that impact on the actual world beyond yourself. And so, my resolution to that is to be left-wing and eco-aware, because I see no other way to express the truths of our society, no other way to understand its inequalities, no other way to express its economies of war and its corruptions. And any other explanation, and other explanations exist, other conspiracies are possible, always in the end appeals to a them that cannot be known, always opens it out to itself to a hidden truth, and often as not ends up conforming and reinforcing the existing hierarchy, which is actually where the problem is. The battle of our times, the battle of the internet, the battle for our minds, is in the end a battle of expressions. And what you will be asked to do is to choose how you are going to express the world to yourself, how you are going to attribute causes. This is not a simple thing. It's not necessarily a kind thing. But Leibniz endlessly reminds you it is so very necessary. And in the end, it won't just be our future that such expressions define.